alone in the desert without water and without direction, until he appeared on horseback. A silent Apache with a simple gesture that changed everything. What seemed like the end became a beginning, and no one expected the outcome. Subscribe to the channel and discover how she became a sister of the sacred trail. The red dust of the road covered everything. Joanna's shoes, once impeccably white, now looked as if they had been dipped in potter's clay. The car, an imported model that less than an hour ago had purred with a powerful engine, now lay motionless like an abandoned carcass in the middle of that northeastern Brazilian backlands. Joanna tried to start the vehicle for the 20th time, but the engine didn't even react. Her cell phone had no signal. The sun punished mercilessly, while the dry air scratched her throat. She tried to open the hood, but understood nothing of what she saw. She sat on the roadside, knees against the hot ground, and finally let the tears fall. They cried not only for the car, but for everything Miguel had promised her. "They're productive lands, darling. I'll build our house far from this madness of the capital. You'll love it." He had brought her here, shown her properties that would supposedly be theirs, and when she questioned the documents, the absurdly low prices, the stories that didn't fit, Miguel simply left her. "I'll get help," he said, taking the spare key from the glove compartment. That was yesterday. Nobody came. Nor would they. Joanna understood too late that she was just another on the list of women he deceived with promises of love and wealth. The realization hurt more than the thirst. That's when she heard it. A distant sound of hooves. At first, she thought it was delirium, a sonic mirage caused by the heat. But the sound was approaching. From the top of the hill appeared the silhouette. A man mounted on a brown horse slowly descended the road. Joanna hesitated between hiding or asking for help. Desperation spoke louder. The rider approached with calm movements, as if nothing in the world needed haste. He was a middle-aged man, sun-weathered skin, features that mixed indigenous and black traits, dressed simply. He stopped a few meters away and observed the car, then Joanna. He didn't ask what had happened. He didn't question why a city woman would be alone on this road that only locals knew. He simply dismounted, approached, and extended a gourd with water. "Drink." It was the only word he said. His gaze was neither judgmental nor pitying. He merely recognized a need and addressed it. Joanna hesitated for a second, but thirst overcame any fear. She drank in long gulps, feeling life return to her body. "Thank you," she murmured between sips. "My name is Joanna." The man nodded. "Damião," he replied simply. No questions about what she was doing there or why she was crying. He just offered a clean handkerchief for her to dry her face. There was something in the way Damião moved, a quiet dignity, a presence that didn't demand explanations. "Do you know someone who can fix my car?" Joanna asked, her voice still trembling. Damião looked at the vehicle for a long time. "Not today," he answered. "The village is 2 hours from here. I can take you." He pointed to the horse. Joanna looked at the car, her last link to the life she knew, and then at the deserted road that stretched in both directions. There was no real choice. She tried to imagine how much the ride would cost, how much she would have to pay for lodging in the village, how she would explain her situation. "I don't have much money with me," she confessed, embarrassed. Damião didn't respond. He just adjusted the saddle and extended his hand to help her mount. She accepted. His hands were calloused, but the touch was gentle. Damião climbed up behind her, took the reins, and the horse began to walk. Not along the main road, but along an almost invisible trail that snaked through the caatinga vegetation. The dry wind gradually carried away the cry stuck in Joanna's throat. She didn't know where she was going, but every meter she moved away from the car seemed to free her from the weight of Miguel's lies. They rode in silence. Joanna observed the changing landscape, the red soil, the resistant cacti, the severe beauty of the backlands. A beauty she had never noticed in the few hours she had spent there with Miguel. So busy was she believing in the fantasies he created. Damião didn't speak, but from time to time he offered water or adjusted the saddle so she would be comfortable. When the sun began to lean on the horizon, Joanna saw in the distance a set of simple houses. It wasn't exactly a village as she had imagined, but a small community, with adobe buildings and clay roofs. "It's a quilombo," explained Damião, speaking for the third time since they met. "Quilombo?" Joanna repeated, surprised. "Like the ones we studied in school?" Damião nodded. "Quilombo dos Angicos. My community." As they approached, children ran to meet the horse, excited about Damião's arrival. They stopped, curious, seeing the stranger who came with him. Women came to the doors, watching. An older man approached. "Who is she, Damião?" "Found her on the old road." "Broken car," he replied, helping Joanna dismount. Her legs trembled from fatigue. The older man looked her up and down, noting the city clothes, the shoes that were once white, the face marked by crying and sun. "I'm Joanna," she introduced herself, uncertain. "My car broke down and—" "Hungry?" interrupted an elderly woman who approached with slow steps, leaning on a carved wooden cane. Her eyes, framed by deep wrinkles, seemed to see beyond the surface. "Yes," admitted Joanna, suddenly realizing how hungry she was. "Come," said the lady, gesturing for her to follow. "I'm Donna Teresa. Here nobody goes hungry." Joanna looked at Damião as if asking for confirmation. He nodded slightly and went to take care of the horse. The community didn't seem hostile, but curious looks followed her as she walked alongside Donna Teresa to a larger house, where the smell of food made her stomach growl. "Sit down," ordered the old lady, indicating a wooden bench. Other women moved around the community kitchen, preparing what appeared to be dinner for everyone. No one asked her why she was alone on the road, why she was crying, or what she intended to do. They just gave her a clay plate with stewed goat meat, flour, beans and pumpkin, and fresh water in an aluminum mug. Joanna ate voraciously, feeling the warmth of the food restore not only her body, but something in her broken soul from the betrayal. When she finished, she noticed that a small girl, no more than 5 years old, was watching her closely, with large, curious eyes. "This is a niña," introduced Donna Teresa. "She hasn't spoken since her mother left for the big city." The girl smiled shyly and extended her hand, touching Joanna's hair with childish fascination. It was the first genuine smile Joanna had seen in days. Something in that innocent touch made her heart tighten. "Thank you for the food," she said, to Donna Teresa. "But I don't want to bother. If you can help me get to the nearest town tomorrow—" The old lady shook her head. "It's night now. We have a clean mat for you. Tomorrow we'll see what to do." And so it was. A younger woman showed Joanna where she could wash, and then took her to a small mud house where a mat had been prepared. Exhausted, Joanna lay down. Through the windowless window, with only a simple curtain, she could see the starry sky as she had never seen in the city. The stars seemed to tell ancient stories about lost people who found unexpected paths. Joanna fell asleep thinking of Damião's silent kindness, Donna Teresa's wrinkled hands, and the curious eyes of little Aninha who didn't speak. Tomorrow she would think about how to get home, how to face the shame of admitting she had been deceived. Tomorrow. For now she allowed herself to simply exist under that immense sky, protected by mud walls and the hospitality of strangers who didn't demand explanations. The crowing of roosters awakened Joanna even before the sun rose. For a moment she was disoriented when she opened her eyes and didn't recognize the mud ceiling above her. Reality returned like breaking waves. The broken car, Miguel and his lies, Damião finding her on the road, the quilombo. She sat up on the mat, feeling pain throughout her body, unaccustomed to the hardness of the floor. But she had rested. A faint light entered through the glassless window. Outside, voices and movements indicated that the community was already starting its day. She got up, adjusted her wrinkled clothes as best she could, and went out. The quilombo awakened with organized energy. Women carried water from a central, while men left with tools for work in the fields. Children ran helping with small tasks. Everyone seemed to have a purpose, a place. Everyone except her. "Did you sleep well?" Donna Teresa's voice arose behind her. The old lady walked slowly, leaning on her carved cane. "Yes, thank you for the hospitality." Joanna hesitated before continuing. I need to return to Salvador. Do you know when a bus passes by here? Donna Teresa smiled patiently. The bus passes on the big road on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Today is Monday. Joanna felt her stomach sink. 2 days at minimum before she could leave. And my car? Could someone possibly— Zé Pequeno understands engines, interrupted Donna Teresa. Damião will take him there today, but I don't promise anything. The old lady led her to the community kitchen, where women prepared corn porridge and coffee. Joanna ate in silence, observing the movement around her. No one treated her badly, but she felt the curious looks, the conversations that diminished when she approached. She was a stranger there. After coffee, she stood, still not knowing what to do or where to go. That was when she felt a light tug on her blouse. Little Anina was there, looking at her with those large, expressive eyes. The girl held her hand and pulled her, clearly wanting her to follow. Joanna looked around as if asking permission and saw Donna Teresa nod. She let herself be guided by the silent child. Anina led her to a yard behind the houses, where other children helped a younger woman spread grated manioc on large sieves. It's Joanna, right? I'm Dandara, introduced the woman, without stopping her work. Anina liked you. It's rare for her to approach outsiders like this. Joanna smiled at the girl who wouldn't let go of her hand. She really doesn't speak? Dandara shook her head. Not since her mother left to work in Salvador 2 years ago. She promised to return in 6 months, but never gave news again. Something in the story touched Joanna deeply. Can I help? She offered, indicating the work with the manioc. Dandara seemed surprised but nodded. Have you ever made flour? No, but I can learn. The following hours were of work under the intensifying sun. Joanna learned to spread the grated manioc mass, to press it to remove excess water, to sift it. Her delicate hands were soon sore. Her back complained of the unaccustomed effort. But there was something comforting about working alongside those women, about feeling that she was contributing in some way. Anina didn't leave her side, imitating her movements, smiling when Joanna got some technique right. At noon, when the sun punished most strongly, everyone retreated for lunch and rest. Joanna ate beans, rice, and a pumpkin stew with dried meat. The simple food had a flavor she hadn't experienced in a long time. Perhaps it was hunger, perhaps it was the honest work that preceded the meal. After lunch, while they rested in the shade of a large mango tree, Damião appeared with another man. Zé Pequeno, he presented briefly. He'll look at your car. The shorter, stockier man nodded. What happened exactly? He asked. It was the first time someone had asked her for details about the incident. Joanna hesitated. It stopped suddenly. I tried to start it several times, but nothing happened. Zé Pequeno asked a few more technical questions that she could barely answer. When they finally left to check the car, Joanna felt relieved. Talking about the vehicle made her remember Miguel, the lies, the humiliation. The afternoon brought more work. This time, Joanna helped prepare the ground for a small medicinal garden that Donna Teresa maintained. The old lady indicated each herb, explaining its uses, while Anina watched attentively. This one cures stomachache, she said, showing a plant with tiny leaves, and this one wards off the evil eye. Joanna smiled, skeptical, but didn't contest. There was a wisdom in that woman that transcended her city beliefs. When the sun began to set, Damião and Zé Pequeno returned. Joanna ran to meet them, anxious for news. So? Zé Pequeno scratched his head, uncomfortable. Problem with the electronic injection. Needs a new part. Only in Feira de Santana. Joanna's heart sank. And how long does it take to get this part? Depends. A week, maybe 2. 2 weeks. The news fell like a stone. 2 weeks in that strange place, far from everything she knew. 2 weeks without her car, her means of escape. I don't have money to stay in a hotel for so long, she confessed, embarrassed. It was Donna Teresa who answered, approaching with her cane. Who said anything about a hotel? You stay here. Joanna looked around, confused. Here, but I can't simply— Yes, you can, interrupted the old lady, and you'll work like everyone else. Nobody eats for free in Quilombo dos Angicos. There was a kind firmness in that declaration that didn't allow discussion. Joanna nodded, not knowing whether she felt relief or apprehension. That night, gathered around a fire in the center of the Quilombo, Joanna heard stories. Stories of ancestors who escaped slavery and formed that community. Stories of resistance, of struggle for land, of preservation of traditions. Old Seu Benedito, the oldest man in the Quilombo, told them with a deep and measured voice, while everyone listened with respect. Joanna noticed that Anina had sat beside her, leaning against her with confidence. The little girl's hand found hers in the dark, and Joanna squeezed it gently. There was a weight of responsibility in that simple touch that both frightened and comforted her. Joanna. Donna Teresa's voice called her when the stories ended, and people began to disperse to their homes. Come with me. The old lady led her to a circle formed by 5 of the oldest residents, including Seu Benedito and Damião himself. They sat on rustic benches, observing her with serious expressions. We want to know what really happened, said Donna Teresa without preamble. Damião doesn't find lost people on that road by chance. Joanna felt her face burn. All the lies she had prepared, all the stories to hide her shame, seemed useless before those wise looks. I was deceived, she finally admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Miguel said he loved me, that we had a future together. He brought me here to see lands that would be ours, where we would build a life. Her voice failed. When I realized it was all a lie, that the lands didn't exist, that he had already done this with other women, he left me there. He said he would get help and never returned. The tears she had contained all day finally trickled down. No one spoke for long minutes. It was Seu Benedito who broke the silence. Vultures fly where there is carrion, but angels guide those with pure hearts to the right shelter. Joanna didn't completely understand what he meant, but felt it was something important. Stay as long as you need, said Donna Teresa. But while you're here, you're part of the Quilombo. Work, respect, learn. Joanna nodded, grateful and intimidated by the responsibility. The car will indeed take time, informed Damião. Zé Pequeno needs to order the part when he goes to the city on Wednesday. Another confirmation that she was stuck there for at least 2 weeks. But strangely, the idea no longer seemed so frightening. When she returned to the small house they had given her, she found simple clothes folded on the mat, cotton dresses, long skirts, fresh blouses. Next to them, a handwritten note with irregular calligraphy, so you don't ruin your city ones, Dandara. The simple gesture of generosity made something break inside Joanna. She sat on the mat and cried, no longer for the abandonment or betrayal, but for having found kindness where she least expected it. Outside, the moon illuminated the sleeping Quilombo. An owl hooted in the distance. Joanna lay down, feeling her body sore from work, but with a strange sense of peace. Tomorrow would be another day of hard work, of adaptation, of learning. Tomorrow would be the second day of a journey she hadn't planned, but which somehow seemed traced in the stars that shone so intensely above the clay roof. Days transformed into a week, and Joanna barely noticed time passing. Her hands, once soft and well cared for, now had calluses in the right places. Her fair skin had gained a golden tone from the constant sun. The body that once complained about work now moved naturally among the daily tasks of the Quilombo. She had learned to make flour, to plant, to cook on a wood stove. Each morning brought new teachings, each night new stories around the fire. Anina had become her constant shadow. The silent girl followed her everywhere, helping with tasks, observing each movement with attentive eyes. Joanna discovered she could communicate with her without words, through gestures, looks, gentle touches. They developed their own language that no one else shared. That Saturday morning, while helping Dandara prepare lunch, Joanna saw a group of men arriving. Damião led, followed by Zé Pequeno and 3 others she didn't know. Their expressions were grave, worried. Donna Teresa came out of her house leaning on her cane and met them in the center of the yard. An improvised meeting began right there. Joanna continued her work but kept her ears attentive. Are you sure about this, Damião? Donna Teresa's voice sounded concerned. Sure. I heard it in town. The mining company already has the papers. They say it's all legal. Legal. Seu Benedito's voice rose, trembling with indignation. What kind of law takes land from those who have lived on it for more than 200 years? Joanna couldn't contain her curiosity. She dried her hands on her improvised apron and approached the group. What happened? The looks turned to her, some distrustful, others resigned. It was Damião who answered. Mining company says they bought the lands. They want the Quilombo out in 30 days. The news hit Joanna like a punch. 30 days. 1 month for those people to leave their homes, their lives, everything they knew. But Guim, is that possible? Don't you have rights to the land? We do, answered Donna Teresa firmly. By law, Quilombo lands are ours by right. But paper against paper, theirs always seems stronger. And where would you go? Some talk about accepting compensation and going to the city, said one of the men Joanna didn't know. Others want to resist to the end. Resist how? Joanna asked, looking at the simple houses, at the children playing unaware of the threat, facing machines with hose. Nobody answered. The question hung in the air like dust that doesn't settle. That's when Joanna felt Anina's little hand clutching her skirt. The girl's eyes were wide, frightened, as if she perfectly understood what was at stake. When does the bus leave for Salvador? Joanna suddenly asked. This afternoon, replied Zé Pequeno. Why? I'm going to the city, she declared. I know people, lawyers. Maybe they can help. A heavy silence followed her declaration. Why would you help? Finally asked Seu Benedito, his ancient eyes fixed on her. You're from the city. Soon you'll return there. Joanna felt the weight of those words, the weight of justified distrust. Because you welcomed me when I had nothing. Because... Her voice failed. Her eyes met Anina's. Because this is the home of people who matter to me now. The afternoon brought the dusty bus that connected the small villages to the capital. Joanna boarded it, carrying only a small bag with documents and the little money she had managed to gather. She had left behind her city clothes, opting for the simple cotton dress that Dandara had given her. Anina cried silently when she left, large tears running down her face without making a sound. I'll be back soon, promised Joanna, kneeling to be at the girl's height. Keep this for me. She gave the child a small necklace with a bird pendant that she always wore. To remember that I'll come back flying. The bus bumped along the dirt road, raising red dust. Joanna looked out the window, seeing the Quilombo diminish in the distance. She felt divided. Part of her yearned for the city, for the conveniences, for the life she knew. Another part already missed the starry sky, the simple and honest work, the community that had welcomed her without judgments. Salvador received her with its familiar noise, its accelerated rhythm, its buildings and lights. Joanna felt strangely displaced in the streets that were once her home. She went straight to Cecilia's house, her best friend since law school that Joanna had abandoned in the second year. My God, Joanna, where were you? We were all worried. Cecilia hugged her tightly. Miguel said you ended everything and disappeared. No one could find you. The mention of Miguel's name made Joanna's blood boil. Miguel lied, as always. In the following hours, she told the whole story. The abandonment on the road, the Quilombo, the threat from the mining company. Cecilia listened in horror. We need to expose this scoundrel. He can't continue deceiving women like this. Later, Joanna said firmly. Now I need your help with something else. You finished college, you know lawyers. I need someone who understands the rights of traditional communities. Cecilia thought for a moment. I know someone. Professor Martins, from the Federal University. He works with cases like this. But, Joanna, she hesitated. What is it? Why do you care so much? You barely know these people. The question hit Joanna like a mirror that shows an unexpected truth. Because they know me, she answered simply. They saw me at my worst moment and still gave me a place. The following days were of intense movement. Joanna and Cecilia managed a meeting with Professor Martins, who listened attentively to the case. Complicated situation, he admitted. These mining companies have money and influence, but Quilombos have constitutional protection. If we can prove the historical occupation, they've been there for more than 200 years, affirmed Joanna. They have documents, stories, records. We'll need all of that, and more. Testimonials, maps, evidence of the cultural importance of the area. As the professor spoke, Joanna took mental notes. She knew exactly who to ask for each piece of information, each document. She now knew every corner of the Quilombo, every person, every story. We have less than 30 days, she reminded. Can we get an injunction before that? I'll try, but I don't promise anything. On the night before her return to the Quilombo, Joanna received an unexpected call. Joanna, is it really you? Miguel's voice sounded sweet, falsely concerned. I heard you're back in the city. Can we talk? I think we had a misunderstanding and... We have nothing to talk about, Miguel, she cut him off, her voice cold. But I have a message for you. If I ever discover that you had any involvement with this mining company story at Quilombo dos Anjicos, I'll personally ensure you pay for it. And I'm not talking about money. She hung up before he could respond. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from a controlled anger she had never felt before. The next day, she returned to the Quilombo. The bus seemed slower on the way back, each curve an eternity. When she finally sighted the adobe houses, her heart accelerated. Something was different. Colorful banners hung between the trees. People gathered in the central yard. A celebration? Barely had the bus stopped when Joanna saw Anina running in her direction. The girl threw herself into her arms with such force that she almost knocked her down. And then, the miracle. "You came back!" exclaimed Anina, her small voice hoarse, from disuse but perfectly audible. "You came back as you promised." Joanna was paralyzed, tears flowing uncontrollably. Anina's first words in 2 years were for her. "I promised, didn't I?" she responded, hugging the girl tightly. Donna Teresa approached, leaning on her cane, her wrinkled face open in a rare smile. "It's not every day we have 2 pieces of good news," said the old lady. "Anina speaking again, and you returning with hope." "I brought more than hope," responded Joanna, wiping away tears. "I brought a lawyer who knows the rights of Quilombolas. He'll help us, but we need documents, evidence, everything that shows the history of this land." That night, gathered in a larger circle than usual, Joanna explained the plan. "Professor, Martins would come the following week to get to know the community and collect testimonials. They would need old maps, birth records, documents that proved the centuries-old occupation. It won't be easy," she warned. "The mining company has money and power, but we have the law on our side." "And what do we know about the mining company?" asked Damião, always practical. "It's called Ouro Negro Mining," answered Joanna. "Founded 5 years ago, but grew very quickly. We suspect money laundering and corruption, but that's another process." The meeting continued until late. Plans were made, tasks distributed. Each member of the community had a role to play. In the end, when people began to disperse, Seu Benedito asked to speak. "Joanna," he called with his grave voice that demanded respect, "the council met while you were away. We have something to say." Joanna's heart skipped a beat. Had she exceeded her limits? Interfered too much? "What surprised our people at first wasn't your color or your city ways," continued the old man. "It was your lost look without direction, the look of someone who doesn't know where they belong." He paused, his ancient eyes fixed on her. "That look has changed. Now it has strength, now it knows where it steps." Donna Teresa came forward, holding a necklace of colorful beads with a small amulet of carved wood. "In the Quilombo, a name is more than a word. It's destiny," she said, placing the necklace around Joanna's neck. "From today, you are Dandara, dos Anjicos, a warrior who returns to fight." Joanna felt the weight of that name, of that responsibility. Dandara, the legendary Quilombola warrior who fought alongside Zumbi, a name of resistance, of courage. "I don't deserve," she began to say, but was interrupted by Anina, who held her hand firmly. "Yes, you do," said the girl, each word clear and strong. "You came back. No one else came back." That night, lying on the mat she now recognized as her bed, Joanna, Now also Dandara dos Angicos looked at the mud ceiling. 25 days remained until the mining company's deadline. 25 days to save the Colombo or see everything destroyed. The chances seemed small against the power of money and corruption. But there was something stronger than fear in her heart now. A determination that had been born in the weeks of work under the sun, in the nights of stories around the fire, in Anina's confident gaze. She belonged to this place now, and she would fight for it, as Dandara had fought centuries before. With tooth and nail, if necessary. With the law, preferably. But she would fight to the end. The days transformed into a relentless countdown. 20, 19, 18. Each morning brought the weight of urgency, each night the uncertainty of tomorrow. Professor Martins came as promised, a thin man with greying hair and perspicacious eyes that examined everything with scientific attention. He spent 3 days in the Quilombo, collecting testimonials, photographing, documenting. He returned to Salvador with a folder full of stories and a cautiously optimistic expression. "We have a case," he said to Joanna before leaving, "difficult but possible." The community mobilized like never before. Seu Benedito retrieved old documents kept in a carved wooden box, passed from generation to generation. Yellowed certificates, hand-drawn maps, birth and death records that proved the centuries-old presence of those families on that land. Damião and the men demarcated the boundaries of the traditional territory, identifying sacred areas, ancient cemeteries, ritual sites that supported the cultural argument. The women documented traditional knowledge, exclusive medicinal plants from the region, artisanal techniques passed through generations, recipes that used irreplaceable local ingredients. Joanna coordinated everything, divided between the Quilombo and the city, where she followed the judicial process with Professor Martins. Her incomplete law education finally found purpose. She studied entire nights, learning about Quilombola legislation, legal precedents, procedural strategies. 15. Days before the deadline, the first victory, an injunction preventing any action by the mining company until the judgment on the merits. The Quilombo celebrated, but Joanna knew it was just the first step. The legal war was just beginning. That's when the unexpected happened. Miguel appeared at the Quilombo. Joanna was helping with the manioc harvest when she saw him arrive in a shiny car, raising dust on the main road. Her heart froze. She dropped the tools and ran to intercept him before he reached the center of the community. "What are you doing here?" she asked dryly when he got out of the vehicle, impeccable in his light suit, out of place in that rural setting. "I came to make a deal," he replied with his commercial smile. "Her deal that benefits everyone. We have nothing to negotiate with you." "Are you sure?" Miguel adjusted his dark glasses. "I'm a consultant for Ouro Negro now. We are authorized to triple the compensation offer. Each family receives enough money to buy a house in the city. You will also be compensated for your collaboration." The insinuating tone in the last sentence made Joanna's stomach turn. "You don't understand. It's not about money." "It's always about money, Joanna. I learned that from you, by the way. Deep down, everyone has their price." That's when she realized. "You knew from the beginning, didn't you? When you brought me here, you were already involved with the mining company." Miguel shrugged without denying. "Business is business. We needed to know who lived here, what the resistance would be. It was field research, let's say." Anger rose hot in Joanna's throat. But before she could respond, a voice interrupted. "Is this the man who left you on the road?" Damião was there, standing a few meters away, his face impassive as always, but his eyes hard as stone. Gradually, other residents began approaching, attracted by the stranger's arrival. Anina positioned herself beside Joanna, holding her hand tightly. "Yes, it is," answered Joanna, keeping her voice firm. "And now he works for the mining company that wants to take your lands." A murmur ran through the group. Miguel adjusted his tie, visibly uncomfortable with the growing audience. "Look, I just came to bring a proposal. A great proposal. By the way, you won't get anything better." "We already have what we want," responded Donna Teresa, advancing with her cane. "Our land, our history." History doesn't put food on the table, ma'am, retorted Miguel condescendingly. Money does, and we're offering a lot. How much? Asked Seu Benedito, surprising everyone. How much is the land worth where my grandfather, my father, and I were born, where my children grew up and my grandchildren play? How much is the place worth where our ancestors are buried? Miguel hesitated, disarmed by the direct question. 3 million. For the entire community. There is no money that pays for memory, replied the old man, nor roots. Miguel looked around, realizing his approach wouldn't work there. He turned to Joanna. Be rational, you are not one of them. You never will be, no matter what clothes you wear or what name they give you. Return to the city, to civilization. It was Anina who answered, her small but firm voice. She is Dandara dos Anjicos now, and Dandara stays. Miguel laughed, a forced laugh that didn't reach his eyes. This is ridiculous. You abandoned your life because of these people. For this family, completed Joanna. They are my family now, and you are on their land, land that is not for sale. Something in Miguel's face changed. The commercial smile gave way to a hard expression. You will regret it. All of you, this injunction won't last forever, and when it he left the threat hanging in the air. Damião stepped forward. Better leave now. It wasn't a request. Miguel looked around at the determined faces surrounding him and realized he was alone there. He got into the car and left, raising more dust than necessary. Joanna watched the vehicle disappear down the road, feeling her heart heavy. He won't give up, she said to Damião, and he has resources. So do we, he replied simply. The following night, Joanna's phone rang. It was Cecilia, her city friend, in panic. Joanna, strange things are happening. Someone broke into Professor Martin's office. They took documents, computers, everything related to the Quilombo case. A chill ran down Joanna's spine. Miguel's visit hadn't been a coincidence. It was the beginning of a dirtier war than she had imagined. Do you have copies of the documents, of the testimonials? Yes, on the university servers, but the professor is devastated. He had personal notes, strategies. Tell him to reinforce security and to come to the Quilombo tomorrow. We need to reformulate our strategy. In the following days, the siege closed in. Local newspapers published articles questioning the legitimacy of the Quilombo. An inspector appeared alleging environmental irregularities precisely on the lands that the mining company wanted to exploit. The judge who had granted the injunction suddenly declared himself impeded, and the case was redistributed. 10. Days to the deadline. The tension was palpable in the Quilombo. Children were kept closer to home. Men took turns in night watches. Women prepared food that could be preserved for longer, anticipating the worst. That's when Joanna had an idea. We need visibility, she said during a meeting with the council. If we remain isolated, we are vulnerable. But if everyone is watching... How to get that? Asked Zé Pequeno. We're just a small Quilombo. My friend Cecilia works with social media, and I have contacts with journalists through Professor Martins. We can organize an open cultural event, show the world what's at stake. The idea caught fire. In 3 days, they organized the Cultural Festival of Quilombo dos Anjicos. They invited other Quilombos from the region, cultural groups from Salvador, university students, journalists. Donna Teresa and the older women prepared traditional foods. Seu Benedito and the elders organized presentations of stories and rituals. The young people rehearsed dances and music that kept the African heritage alive. The festival was scheduled for the weekend, 7 days before the fatal deadline. But on the eve, a convoy of 3 pickup trucks stopped at the entrance to the Quilombo. Men in uniform, supposedly private security, set up a barrier. Private property, they claimed. No one enters without authorization. It was an obvious tactic to prevent the festival. Joanna, Professor Martins, and Damião went to negotiate. We have a court injunction, argued the professor, showing the documents. Any impediment to access is a crime. The men didn't move. Company orders. Talk to their lawyers. The news spread quickly. The guests who were already on their way began posting on social media. Prevented from entering Quilombo dos Angicos, armed guards block road. Journalists who had been invited began to arrive, now attracted by the abuse complaint. In a few hours, what would be a small cultural festival transformed into state news. Mining company blocks access to historic Quilombo, headlined the online newspapers. When the federal police finally arrived, there were already dozens of cars parked on the road, hundreds of people demanding passage, and the cameras of 3 TV stations recording everything. The illegal barrier was removed. The guards were summoned to testify. The festival happened, much larger than planned. 2,000 visitors instead of the expected 200. Ushnali. Coverage instead of just local news. Quilombo dos Angicos became overnight a symbol of resistance against large corporations. 5 days before the deadline, the new judge in the case called a conciliation hearing. The mining company, pressured by public opinion, sent its president instead of just lawyers. The state government, feeling the political weight of the situation, sent representatives. Joanna, Professor Martins, Seu Benedito, Dona Teresa, and Damião represented the Quilombo. The hearing lasted 7 hours. In the end, a historic agreement. The mining company would withdraw all claims to the area in exchange for permission to explore a small strip of uninhabited land, paying royalties directly to the Quilombola Association. Additionally, it committed to supporting the process of definitive land titling in the name of the community. "Did we win?" asked Anina when they returned, her large eyes fixed on Joanna. "We won, little one. The land continues to be ours." The celebration in the Quilombo lasted 2 days. Dances, songs, food, stories. Joy overflowed from every house, from every face. On the final night, under the light of the stars and a large bonfire, Seu Benedito asked for silence. 200 years ago, our ancestors escaped slavery and found freedom in these lands, said the old man, his voice carrying the weight of history. They faced hunger, persecution, death, but they resisted, as we resist today. His eyes met Joanna's. Some fight with swords, others with papers and words, but the fight is the same, for the right to exist. Dona Teresa stood up, leaning on her cane. "Dandara dos Angicos," she called, using Joanna's Quilombola name. "Come here." Joanna stepped forward, her heart racing. The old lady held an object wrapped in a red cloth. "When someone saves the community, they receive the guardianship of this," she said, unwrapping the object. It was a small sculpture of dark wood, polished by the touch of many hands over generations. It represented a woman with arms raised, as if embracing the sky. "It's Nana, the ancestor who guides our steps," explained Dona Teresa. "Now you are her guardian." Joanna received the sculpture with trembling hands. The weight of the ancient wood, the responsibility of the symbol, the trust placed in her. Everything seemed too great to bear. "I don't know if I deserve—" "No one deserves," interrupted Seu Benedito. "We all serve, as you served." That night in her small adobe house that she no longer considered temporary, Joanna contemplated the sculpture by candlelight. She remembered the broken car on the road, the tears of despair, the abandonment. She remembered the first night in the Quilombo, the fear of the unknown, the desire to flee back to civilization. And then she thought of all that had happened since then, of the hands calloused by honest work, of Anina's smiles, of Seu Benedito's stories, of Damião's silent wisdom, of Dona Teresa's indomitable strength, of the starry sky that she now recognized as her own. The car that Miguel had abandoned on the road had finally been towed to the city, repaired and sold. Joanna used the money to buy materials for the Quilombo school and a special gift for Anina, notebooks and books, so the girl could learn to write her own stories. The cell phone that once seemed an extension of her body now went forgotten for days. The connection that mattered didn't need a signal or battery. It was in the looks exchanged around the fire, in the hands that united in work, in the hearts that beat to the rhythm of the land. Outside, under the moonlight, Anina waited for her night lesson. Joanna taught her to read and write, and the girl absorbed everything with the same intensity with which she had previously kept silence. "I'll write our story," Anina said once, "so no one forgets how you arrived and how you saved our Quilombo." "Our story," Joanna gently corrected, "and it was the Quilombo that saved me first." With the small sculpture of Nana carefully placed in a niche in the wall, Joanna, Dandara, dos Anjicos, went out to meet Anina. The beaten earth path no longer hurt her bare feet. The night sounds no longer frightened her. The warm wind of the backlands caressed her face like an old friend. She no longer needed maps or GPS to know where she was. Her feet knew the way, her heart recognized home. And her steps, once hesitant in the red dust of the road, now left firm marks on the land she had learned to defend and to love. If you were moved by Joanna's journey in Quilombo dos Anjicos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that celebrate our culture and our roots. Leave your like and share in the comments which moment of this narrative touched your heart the most. After all, as Seu Benedito would